You remember exactly where you were when it happened, what you were wearing, who called you, how the light looked. You'd bet your life on every detail. Every single detail is probably wrong. You've been told your whole life that strong emotions lock in strong memories, that the moments that shook you are the ones you remember perfectly, so you trust those memories completely. You've retold them dozens of times. You've built parts of your identity around them, and nobody ever told you that the more certain you feel about a memory, the more likely it's been rewritten without you knowing. This is called flashbulb memory bias. Studies show that people's confidence in these vivid memories stays high for years, while the accuracy drops sharply within days of the event. Your brain doesn't store emotional moments like a photograph. It stores them like a story. And every time you retell the story, your brain quietly edits it. Think about a moment that stopped you cold, a phone call with bad news. The moment you heard something that changed everything. You can probably see it right now. The room. The feeling. The exact words. That level of detail feels like proof. Your brain treats emotional intensity as a signal to pay close attention, so it floods the moment with what feels like high-definition recording. But that's not what's happening. Your brain is actually flagging the moment as important, then reconstructing the details later from fragments, from what you expected to see, from what made the story make sense. You didn't record it. You wrote it. And here's what nobody tells you about this. The retelling makes it worse, not better. Every time you describe that memory to someone, your brain resaves it with whatever you just said included. If you got one detail slightly wrong when you first told it, that wrong detail is now part of the memory. You told it again at dinner 3 months later, with that wrong detail still in it. Then again a year later. Now the wrong version feels more real than whatever actually happened. You're not remembering the event. You're remembering the last time you remembered it. Most people think this only applies to small things. They think their biggest, most emotional memories are immune. That's exactly backwards. Researchers found that people's memories of major public events were significantly less accurate than their everyday memories, even though they felt far more confident about them. The emotion doesn't protect the memory. The emotion is what makes you stop questioning it. Your brain is running a very old system. For most of human history, if something scared you or shocked you, you needed to act fast. Your brain needed to lock in a version of events that explained what happened and pointed to what to do next. Perfect accuracy was less important than immediate usefulness. So your brain stitched together a story from what your senses caught, what your experience predicted, and what felt true given how frightened or shaken you were. That story got filed as memory. It felt solid because the emotion was solid, but the details were always a construction. This bias survives because you never get to check it. There's no recording to compare against. The people who shared the moment have their own reconstructed version. And when you compare notes, you unconsciously blend them. Your version absorbs details from theirs. Theirs absorbs from yours. Now both of you remember a hybrid that neither of you actually experienced. And because you both feel so certain, neither of you questions it. But here's where it gets interesting. You haven't been failing to remember. You've been doing exactly what your brain was designed to do. The problem isn't that your memory is broken. The problem is that you've been trusting it like it's a recording when it's actually a rewrite. Once you see that difference, something shifts. You stop defending your version of the past and start getting curious about it. So next time you're in an argument about what was said at that dinner 3 years ago, or what happened the night everything changed, you'll feel that same total certainty. You'll know the room, the words, the feeling. And now you'll also know that certainty is not the same as accuracy. Your brain felt something big, built a story around it, and has been reinforcing that story ever since. That doesn't mean the emotion was wrong. It doesn't mean the moment didn't matter. It means the specific details are softer than they feel. Most people spend years defending memories that have been quietly You now know why. That's not a small thing to understand about yourself. There's a version of your past that lives only in your head. It's been edited dozens of times by emotion, by retelling, by the people who were there with their own edited versions. You've never been able to see those edits. Now you can feel them. That awareness won't change what happened, but it changes how tightly you hold your version of it. And that loosening is where something useful begins. Think about every important conversation you've ever replayed. The one where you said the wrong thing. The one where they said something you never forgot. You've gone over it so many times that the replay feels like the original. Your brain doesn't mark the difference. It serves up the most recent version and calls it memory, which means the conversations that hurt you most have probably grown sharper and more painful with each replay. Not because of what actually happened, because of how many times you've run the reconstruction. People who understand this don't suddenly distrust everything. They just hold their memories a little more loosely. They stay curious instead of certain. They ask what they might be missing instead of defending what they're sure of. That shift costs nothing, but it quietly changes how you move through conflict, through grief, through every story you've been telling yourself about your own life. Watch what happens this week when you feel completely sure about a past moment. Notice how solid it feels. Notice how much you trust it. Then ask yourself when you last actually checked it against anything outside your own head. You might be surprised how rarely the answer is recently. Subscribe if you want more insights like this that actually make sense.